It's been almost here for 40 years. We're talking about unified communications. Learn more on today's HP Tech Talk. Hi, this is Andy McCaskey from SDR News. Welcome to HP Tech Talk, the series where we talk about defining the new style of information technology with subject matter experts from Hewlett-Packard. Today's topic is focused on networking. I want to introduce our guest, Manfred Arndt.
Hi, thanks for having me, Andy.
Well, it's really great to have you and to talk with you again. As you mentioned a couple of years ago on one of the HP Technology Days, we had a chance to chat. And I think a lot has changed, not only in the past 3 years, but as we were talking before we started the recording, the past 40 years, and this whole notion of unified communications.
Yeah, most definitely. You know, the big reason why I got into this field is 40 years ago, I was at Disney World and I saw the first video phone, and I was so excited about how this is going to change how we communicate. And for the longest time, I really felt gypped. I felt like, you know, we have this technology, why can't we deploy it? And it took quite a long time for us to develop the right infrastructure. So the internet, TCP/IP, you know, some open standards, and, you know, the cloud, and, you know, really more application enablement, and along with, you know, more powerful devices, laptops, and BYOD devices. And now we're finally, in the last few years, able to start realizing that vision. So the lesson I learned is it's so much more than just about technology. You know, we can, if the technology is capable, it's really more about how do you build that ecosystem? How do you get devices to start talking to each other in a seamless manner?
Define a little bit what you mean. Are we talking about unified messaging, or are we talking about an extension of voicemail, video conference? What are we speaking of when we refer to unified communications?
And that's a great question, because I feel a lot of vendors have done the industry disservice. A lot of people call unified communications a bunch of tools that are thrown together. There's nothing unified about that. True unified communications is really about anywhere, anytime communication on any device. But on top of that, it really needs to be a seamless user experience. It needs to be natively integrated into your desktop, into the tools you do. You shouldn't have to pull up 3 or 4 different tools and different you know, voicemail extensions or passwords to get into these tools. So to me, an example of that is Microsoft Link. They've just done a fantastic job of integrating the user experience into, you know, email, into, you know, documents, into SharePoint. So anywhere you see a user's name, you can see their presence information. So you can see if they're available, if they're busy. You know, we now can, you know, it used to be I hated using the phone. It was absolutely frustrating to use the phone. But now, you know, you typically look at somebody, if they're green, you know they're available, you'll start an IM session. And it's very easy to transition from that IM session into a voice call. And then a lot of times you'll start talking to the person and you're working on a project and you say, let me share my desktop, or let me start up a video session. It's really changed the ability to communicate much more rapidly, improve the productivity, and made it much more simpler for users to use these different tools.
Well, I know that HP has been instrumental in defining standards in this area and supporting open standards, but that's only been over the last couple of years. What has delayed the implementation of standards within this particular corner of technology?
Vendor lock-in. I mean, if you're the dominant vendor, there really isn't much interest or motivation to open it up to others and, you know, potentially let them gain market share.
Well, what can you tell me about what differentiates HP's portfolio?
Well, HP has the most complete unified communication solution in the market today. And, you know, we do this because we have a broad ecosystem of partners. And this includes, you know, Microsoft, Avaya, Polycom for video conferencing, you know, ShoreTel, Mitel. So we, you know, we work with a lot of different partners out there. And then we also have, you know, endpoint devices. We've got IP phones. We've got servers, storage. We, you know, specialize in, you know, data centers, deployments. the networking piece and management tools to manage it. But in addition to that, we now have, the most compelling SDN leadership and vision out there. And by being able to wrap this all with professional services, we really are a one-stop shop that can, provide a compelling, complete UC portfolio and solution for customers.
So how does unified communications benefit from having a software-defined network as opposed to a more traditional provisioning?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Our SDN strategy realizes that it's important to have a consistent quality experience all the way from the data center, from the application to the end user where they reside. And that's very different for how much of the industry is deploying SDN out there. So today, there's a lot of focus on SDN. It's really a powerful tool, but it's mostly focused in the cloud and in the data center. And our strategy differs from that. We believe that it really is important to provide that solution end to end from application to end user. And so we've been, extending this application residing through, a compelling solution. An example is, there hasn't been that big of a problem when you've been deploying IP telephony. And the reason is with IP telephony, the IP phone is on a dedicated VLAN. It discovers its VLAN and its auto configuration via protocols like LLP-MED, or prior to that, CDP, which is a proprietary solution. And life was good. But along has come, unified communications and much more of an application-enabled infrastructure. And with that, things have become much, much harder for the IT administrator. So what they're starting to realize is, how do you even recognize what the application type is? In the past, the phone marked the right QoS properties, and it was very easy to enforce those policies throughout the network. But with a soft phone application, by default, most OSs don't enable QoS. And even if they do, most IT administrators don't want to trust the end user application anyway, because it's pretty easy for an end user to take something like a BitTorrent or World of Warcraft and assign it a higher QoS priority and impact the quality of experience of other users or other applications. So because of that, it's become much harder for IT administrators to identify the application. And so today, what you're having to do is you're having to do from a box-by-box standpoint, from a switch-to-switch standpoint, using a cryptic CLI. They have to configure very complex access control lists, or ACL QoS policies, using UDP or TCP port numbers. And these ranges can vary depending on whose tool you use or how it's configured and administered in the data center. So this becomes very complex very quickly, very tedious, and very error prone. And as such, some organizations, or many organizations, have kind of thrown their hand up that says, it tends to run good most of the time. That's good enough. Well, the problem is that impacts the user's experience. It's an inconsistent user experience that doesn't always provide the right experience, and it frustrates the end user.
Well, it sounds like when you throw in the notion of bring your own device, that the IT management, you said, threw up their hands. It would feel like you're shoveling against the tide.
Exactly. With a company-owned device, you can enforce some policies, but on a bring your own device, you can't even control what the operating system registry settings are, or let alone what applications they're deploying. So it makes that provisioning much, much harder, and especially in the mobility environment. A lot of people, I've heard them say, is let's just throw bandwidth at the problem and it'll go away. Well, the reality is, in the wireless world, bandwidth is very limited. And because of the highly mobile nature of people, it's hard to plan how many users are in a given spot anyway. So, doing QoS prioritization is extremely important on the wireless link and the WAN routers. So, for enterprise deployment to have a good UC experience, you really need to have to deploy that end to end. Most of the major players are focused on SDN in the data center. Well, what we believe is what differentiate us is we've done a tight integration with Microsoft that provides a very compelling use case, for unified communications in the campus and branch where the users reside. And what we've done is, anytime a user initiates a new call with Link, so whether it's desktop sharing, whether it's voice or video, Via RESTful API, we get detailed attributes about what the user is trying to do. We get information about the user. We get information about how much bandwidth they're trying to use, and we get the TCP and UDP port numbers. And what that allows our SDN virtual application network application to do is take those policies and via OpenFlow, which OpenFlow is a standard protocol in SDN that allows us now to provision and program the switches, but only the switches along that path that are involved with the right priority and parameters to enforce the right dynamic policies on a per call basis. So then at the end of the call, we can then tear it down. And what this ensures is a seamless user experience. It ensures that it's automated with no human intervention required, and it does it in a trusted, secure manner. And that's very much different than things are done today in that manner.
Well, and not only would that increase the reliability, it would free up those skilled individuals for higher priority IT projects.
Exactly. No network engineer, IT admin wants to be spending their time doing these tedious configuration, and it allows them now to focus their time on much more important initiatives, like BYOD or the next phase of what's going to be out there.
Well, can you tell us about some other initiatives that HP is working on in this area?
Sure. We've announced a series of products recently around, improving the UC experience. And some of these solutions, really are to efficiently deliver products faster, expand the market, and create a more competitive advantage for organizations, on any time, any device, anywhere. And so a couple of these is we've got our multi-services series router, and this is a product we've had for many years. But what we've added is we've recently qualified it and extended it to work in a Microsoft link as an enhanced SIP gateway for enterprise voice deployments. Another thing we've done is in the same multi-series routers platform, we now can put these modules in there. And in those modules, what we have is the survival branch communications module. And we've got 3 different variations of it. We've got a large module, we got a medium module, and a small module. And what that does is ensures that customers who are doing a Link Enterprise voice deployment, that they have a resilient and highly available deployment in branch sites, even when the WAN is unavailable. When the WAN link goes down, the Link, either a desk phone or Link soft phone or even a BYOD device, will then via this module communicate out of the PSTN and provide a reliable backup. In addition to that, we've got some of our IP phones, and what we've done is our HP 4120 IP phone, we've optimized that now to work in a Microsoft Office 365 environment. And what Office 365 environment is really a cloud-based offering. Many customers today are still deploying UC on-premise, but the direction and the phase is going to be more cloud-enabled in the future. So this allows somebody to deploy an IP phone at in a medium-sized organization or an SMB and run the UC applications out of a service provider offering.
Well, I know that Cisco recently announced an application-centric infrastructure. What's HP's response to that initiative?
Our focus has always been on delivering, flexible, open standards technology that provides customers with, flexibility and choice. We're actually the first major vendor to have a OpenFlow commercially available switch on the market out there. And since then, we've continuously expanded that and now have over 40 models of switches that are OpenFlow capable. Never since over 20 million ports out there that have this already deployed. And what's important here is SDN is still somewhat early, but when customers deploy network infrastructure, these days they expect a 7 or more year life cycle out of these switches. So the point being is, even if they're not ready to go down that SDN path today, virtually every IT manager I talk to, when you ask them, well, how likely are you going to do this over the next 5 years? Everybody nods their head and says, absolutely, this is something I don't want to do. So, the benefit here with our strategy is allow customers that aren't even thinking about that to have that investment protection and flexibility to deploy these solutions at their pace when they're ready without having to do a rip and replace. Cisco's recent announcement is, there wasn't a lot of substance to that other than them acknowledging that they're behind on SDN and that networking needs to be made easier. So, customers that are considering UC&C and the benefits of that really should be looking at more application-centric solutions like Microsoft Link or other best-of-breed solutions with, an HP networking infrastructure that provides it with an SDN-ready, flexible, open standards platform to provide them that investment protection when they're ready for it.
Of course, HP's been working very closely with Microsoft in this Microsoft Link product. Are there other UC solutions that HP has worked with as well?
Yes, definitely. And that's, pretty important for two reasons. One is when you're going through a UC migrations, few customers actually do their, replacement overnight. It's usually a multi, phase, depending on the size of the organization. It can be a multi-year, 2 or 3 year rollout. So it's important that, the network infrastructure can support the hybrid environment. And, in other cases, it's really because special use cases, the needs of a small organizations, the needs of a highly mobile organization, the needs for manufacturing organizations may be different. So because of that, in addition to Microsoft Link, we have solutions that we work closely with Avaya, with Polycom, with ShoreTel, with Mitel, just to mention some. And this provides customers choice and flexibility today, but even more importantly, as their needs in the business requirements change in the future, they have assurance that they are protected and have a good path forward.
So it sounds like a lot of people should begin perhaps with a channel partner or with HP Consulting. Is that the best place for them to start to learn more, or do you have some web references that would apply?
The first place I recommend going is go to hp.com/networking, and you'll be able to get a good overview of the solutions we have. And from there, they'll be able to drill into the, a variety of the components we have.
Well, and I know you've got a number of YouTube videos. We'll put a link right here that you'll be able to go and get some detailed information there as well.
You'll see a very compelling demo that we've done that shows you the benefit of automation of policy deployment and making this much easier to deploy.
Next week or the next time we talk about HP networking, we're going to be talking about the consumerization of IT and the mobile enterprise. So don't miss that. Manfred, thanks for joining us, and thanks to you folks for joining us here on HP Tech Talks.